but it can also have a negative impact on the users. There's an entry called ECL owner in the brackets there that you can add to the administration ECL, and it grants the user, the end user, the rights that you want them to have. So you don't have to give them every right, but you can give them the rights that generally would give them the access and permissions they need. So this is going to flow down during the next refresh of the properties or the policies, and it'll reduce calls to the help desk. So here's an example. We've added the ECL owner in workstation security. We've given them pretty much everything except property broker and access to the workstation ECL. So
Ted?
Yeah.
Just to interrupt real quick, a question came across asking, can you explain the difference between an ACL and an ECL?
Right. The ECL, the access control list, controls access to the database. So that tells the user whether they have reader access or author access or manager access to a database. The execution control list shows what they can do once they're in the database. So this is one of the things that kind of sets Notes apart from other mail programs where it controls, can you allow access to external programs, or will you allow a signer of code to send an email or access the network or get down to the file system. As you can see in the screen, all the different permissions. So file system access, current database, environment variables. Generally, what you would do is default and no signatures should have no rights or very limited rights. And then you would use a code signing ID, or you would add server names to the ECL at the administrative level so that when the user accesses a database, the proper signatures are on the code and they get the right executional permissions to do what they need to do, whether that's to send an email, with a workflow app, or access the file system to save a file or upload a file into the database. So hope that cleared that up. And so the ECL owner would set what the user can do specifically. So in a database application, if you allow the ECL owner access to send mail or access an external program, if it's calling some other program, say Word or something in an OLE object, the database user would be able to get into that. So this is something that we find across many of our clients where they still are using the stock ECL, and users are getting prompted a lot to add or allow permissions to certain signers or the no signature. Okay. Another thing that we see across many of our customers is the port compression not being used. This is a great way to reduce bandwidth. A lot of times we're seeing almost 50% reduction in bandwidth, depending on the type of data that's going across. And really we see almost none of our customers use it when we go in and do an assessment. Or sometimes they have it set up on the server but not on the clients, or the clients and not on the server. And for port compression to work properly, it has to be set up on both the client and the server. Otherwise, there's no compression going on. Very easy to set up. There's two places that you need to make a change. One is on the server, and the other is just simply in a desktop policy that you would then push out to all the clients. On the client side, you go into the desktop policy and go to the Preferences tab, and then the Network Ports tab underneath that. Find the port, which should be TCP, and in the compression field, just change it from being empty to compress, and then you can set the value and prevent changes. This is something that generally users shouldn't need to change, and you would want them to change. There are other options there in the how to apply the setting that you can allow the user to set it and then have it enforced the next time they restart Notes, which just causes users some confusion, but it is a nice way to toy with some users perhaps. And that setting would push down during policy policy update at the client, and it would take effect the next time they restart the client. On the server side, you go into the admin client, go to the server tab, and tools, ports, and setup, and you enable the compressed network data option there. Click OK, and then you can either wait for the next server restart, or you can issue a restart port TCP/IP command on the server. So let's take a look at that. Here, and I was resetting it earlier this morning. So here's my server, and we go to the ports and setup, and just check that. Click OK. We already had port encryption enabled. You get a nice little warning here saying you have to restart the port. And let's see, previously I did a show config TCP/IP. What it basically does is it updates this line in the nodes INI on the server. So this is what it is currently. And if we go ahead and issue a restart TCP/IP command here. It takes just a moment or two for it to reset. You don't want to do this in the middle of the day, obviously, because it will knock any users off of the server and not make you a very popular admin. So now if we go back here and show config TCP/IP star, you'll see that it's changed this last line. So 45056 is just for encryption, and 45088 is encryption and compression enabled. So here you go. And you can go into the log here, and the log will show you traffic comparison. So right here you've got uncompressed, and here it is with the compression. So that's better than 50% reduction in network bandwidth. So you can take that to your network manager and have them buy you a cup of coffee or lunch. Now we're going to talk about Domino side of the house here. Preventing replication of system databases. What we found is we had a customer that back in the olden days there was no mobile directory or anything like that, so they would allow users to replicate the Domino directory names.nsf locally so that people could address email. But what they were finding is since they've gone to the mobile directory and they've tried to clean up the local names.nsf or the local replica of the names.nsf, they weren't able to find all of it, and they were still having issues where a user deleted 2 weeks ago would magically show up in the server again, and we were trying to help them reverse this issue. Because you don't want the deletions coming back, obviously, because it would happen sporadically. A Notes client would be offline for 2 or 3 months. They'd come back and replicate again. The cutoff period had expired, and they didn't pick up that deletion, so they send it back up to the server. So preventing replication in the ACL for the default settings, or if you have a group for all users, you would want to uncheck the replicator copy documents. This prevents the users from replicating that data back up to the server, and helps you prevent this issue. And this particular client was having it happen pretty regularly, and they were getting frustrated with having to try and find it. So this changing the setting pretty much took care of that issue for them, and they were happy campers, and their management was very pleased. So another thing is orphan mail files. Speaking of deleted users, you have you delete your user out of the Domino directory, but their mail file is being kept around for various reasons, be it legal reasons, just policy reasons that you don't purge mail files for 30 days or whatever, or maybe they missed during the admin P processing, it got missed somehow. That request got deleted accidentally. the person that deleted the user out of the Domino directory didn't follow the process and didn't choose to have it deleted, or whatever reason, orphan mail files happen. And the biggest hassle is that you see the sketch task errors in the Domino log coming up because it can't find so-and-so in the Domino directory. Another cause of it is, the database on another member of the cluster got left behind. It didn't get processed during the mail file purge. So I've got an application that goes out and monitors the mail server, looks through a specified mail file, mail folder that usually is mail, but could be set to something else, and it looks at the mail file owner field in the calendar policy form, and does a search against the Domino directory, and then if it doesn't find that match, it marks it as an orphan. So let's take a look at that real quick. So this is something that we've already run before. Very simple. Pulls out some basic information out of it. These have owners. This one isn't. So you can go in and delete this manually if you like. And we use this at another client, and they found 40 or 50 because their purge interval. The way they're set up, they have their mail servers and then they have an archive server. And this is where we were using this, is on their archive server. So obviously archives aren't replicas, so admin team misses those. So they run this periodically to kind of clean up the archive server. And it's been very, very successful there. I actually got an email this morning from somebody who saw the slides from a previous presentation and was asking about, well, what about cleaning off the calendar policy forms? They have a management edict basically that says we don't delete any mail files, but he wants to stop the sketch task running, errors from occurring. So I'm going to go ahead and do the update. I'll probably get it done in the next couple of days. I'll update it to add an agent to go in and clear out the calendar policy form so that those sketch errors stop happening. Probably be something about renaming the form so that we can run the orphan mail agent against it. So, and these are all things that the agent I showed earlier about the new mail agent, the tips database is just a discussion form. But the orphan mail file, these will all be available on my site later on. New compact task options. New in 8.5.1, most of them, some of them in 8.5.2. Some of the new options make it a lot easier for ODS upgrades and just running regular maintenance. Gives you a much more granular set of options when you're running compact, but it does need to be enabled with a notes any parameter debug enable compact 8.5 equals 1. And once you do that, you can do a load compact dash question mark to see what the new options are. And here's a screen cap of it. And a lot of new options that allow you to skip the system databases, so you're not trying to compact names and log when you run the compact, because they just error out anyway. Allows you to process databases once a week or once every X days if it's been processed successfully before. Allows you to limit the runtime for a compact on the database level or the entire session level. So you can set it to run, only allow compact to run for a maximum of 15 minutes on a database and 4 hours total. So you can get a really granular maintenance window, which is important, especially for the backup admins, so they know when they can get their backups done. Recursing through subdirectories or not, the number of compact tasks you can run in parallel. So if you have hardware that will support it, you've got a multi-core processor.